Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. Before starting the video, I request you to kindly support my channel. Subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Jazakallah. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Allah Almighty says in the Quran, "Have you not seen how your Lord dealt with the army of the elephant? Did he not foil their plan? He sent against them flocks of birds, pelting them with stones of baked clay, reducing them to scattered remains." The very first verse of Surah Al-Fatiha declares, "All praise is due to Allah, the Lord of all worlds." This opening verse highlights the existence of multiple worlds. Surah Al-Fatiha, often referred to as the key of the Quran, introduces the vastness of creation. This series aims to explore different worlds and their interaction with our reality in light of the Quran. In this chapter, we will examine a historical event that took place around 40 years before the birth of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Let's begin. Many of us have heard the story of Abraha, the ruler who sought to destroy the Kaaba with an army of elephants. However, his plans were ultimately thwarted when Allah sent flocks of birds that wiped out his forces. This event is immortalized in Surah Al-Fil. Before delving into the concept of parallel dimensions, let's first understand what led Abraha to embark on such a mission. According to historical accounts, Abraha built a grand church in Sana'a called Al-Qalis, an architectural masterpiece unlike anything seen before. He sent a letter to the Negus, the king of Abyssinia, stating, "I have constructed a church for you, the likes of which no king before you has ever possessed. I will not rest until I divert the Arabs' pilgrimage to this church." Some scholars suggest that Abraha's real motive was to humiliate the people of Yemen. He enforced harsh policies, including amputating the hands of workers who arrived late. He also adorned the church with luxurious materials, importing marble from the Bilqis palace, and installing gold, silver, ivory, and ebony decorations. The church stood tall as a symbol of power and ambition. However, the news of Abraha's plan to redirect the pilgrimage angered the Arabs, particularly the Kanana tribe, who were responsible for adjusting the sacred calendar in Mecca. The Quran condemns this manipulation. Postponing the sacred month is only an addition to disbelief. Surah At-Tawbah 37. One enraged Kanana tribesman decided to take action. Under the cover of darkness, he traveled to Sana'a and defiled Al-Qalis by desecrating it. He then left unnoticed. When Abraha learned of this, he was furious. After investigating, he discovered that the perpetrator was from Mecca, a city whose people held the Kaaba sacred. This act was meant to symbolize that Abraha's church could never replace the Kaaba as the center of worship. Enraged, Abraha vowed to destroy the Kaaba. He mobilized his Abyssinian army, prepared his elephants, and set off toward Mecca. The Arabs, alarmed by the impending attack on their holy site, felt compelled to defend it. A noble Yemeni leader, Du Nafar, rallied his people and other Arab allies to resist Abraha's advance. A battle ensued, but Abraha's army emerged victorious. Du Nafar was captured and brought before Abraha. Facing execution, he convinced Abraha that he could be more useful alive, so Abraha decided to keep him as a prisoner instead. Continuing his campaign, Abraha encountered resistance in the Khatham region, where Nufail ibn Habib al-Khathami led a coalition of Arab tribes, including Shahran and Anmar. Despite their efforts, they too were defeated, and Nufail was taken prisoner. When Abraha prepared to execute him, Nufail pleaded for mercy and offered to guide him through the Arabian territories. Abraha spared his life and used him as a navigator. Upon reaching Ta'if, Abraha was met by Mas'ud ibn Mu'adh and the leaders of the Thaqif tribe. Seeking to avoid conflict, they assured Abraha of their loyalty, stating, "O king, we are your obedient subjects. We have no dispute with you. The temple we worship, dedicated to Al-Lat, is not your target. The one you seek is in Mecca, and we will provide you with a guide to lead you there." With this assurance, Abraha left Ta'if without further conflict. The temple of Allat in Ta'if was revered by the people there, similar to how the Kaaba was venerated in Mecca. They sent Abu Rigal to guide Abraha to Mecca. However, when they reached Al-Mugammas, Abu Rigal died. The Arabs, angered by his death, stoned his grave, and this practice of stoning Abu Rigal's grave continued among the people of Al-Mugammas. When Abraha halted at Al-Mugammas, he sent ahead to Mecca one of his Abyssinian men, Al-Aswad ibn Maqsud, along with a cavalry detachment. The possessions of the people of Tihama, including items from Quraysh and others, were seized. Among these were 200 camels belonging to Abdul Muttalib ibn Hashim, who was then the leader and elder of Quraysh. In response, Quraysh, Kinana, Hudhayl, and other tribes who revered the Kaaba initially decided to confront Abraha. However, they abandoned their plans upon realizing that they lacked the power to match his formidable forces. Abraha then sent Hunata al-Himyar to Mecca with a message: "Seek out the leader and the most noble of these people. Inform him that the king has no intention of waging war against them. His sole purpose is to destroy the Kaaba. If they do not engage in battle to prevent our access to it, there will be no need for bloodshed. Should they choose not to resist, bring their leader to me." Upon arriving in Mecca, Hunata inquired about the leader of Quraysh and was directed to Abdul Muttalib ibn Hashim. Hunata delivered Abraha's message to him. Abdul Muttalib responded, "By God, we do not wish to engage in conflict with him, nor do we have the strength to do so. This house is God's sacred sanctuary, and that of his true servant, Abraham, peace be upon him. If God chooses to protect it from Abraha, it is because it is his holy house. If he allows Abraha to destroy it, then we are powerless to defend it." Hunata then informed Abdul Muttalib that he must accompany him to Abraha in accordance with the king's orders. Abdul Muttalib set off with some of his sons and arrived at Abraha's encampment. There, he requested to see Dhu Nafar, who was a friend of his. Dhu Nafar was still held in confinement. When they met, Abdul Muttalib asked if Dhu Nafar had any advice or solution for their predicament. Dhu Nafar replied, "How can a man offer solutions when he is a king's prisoner facing certain death? I have no counsel to offer except this. Unais, the elephant keeper, is a friend of mine. I will send him a message strongly recommending you and ask him to seek permission for you to address the king. Speak to him as you see fit, and Unais will intercede on your behalf as best he can." Abdul Muttalib agreed to this plan, and Dhu Nafar sent Unais the following message: "Abdul Muttalib is the leader of Quraysh and the custodian of the well of Mecca. He feeds both the men in the plains and the wild animals in the mountains. The king has seized 200 of his camels. Please seek permission for him to see the king and intercede for him as best as you can." Unais agreed to carry out this request. He approached Abraha and said, "O king, at your door, seeking an audience, is the Lord of Quraysh and the keeper of the well of Mecca. He provides sustenance to both the people of the plains and the wild beasts of the mountains. Allow him to meet with you to discuss an important matter." Abraha granted permission for Abdul Muttalib to enter. Upon his arrival, Abdul Muttalib appeared strikingly dignified, handsome, and impressive. Abraha, moved by his presence, wished to honor him, but did not want the Abyssinians to see him sitting next to the throne. Instead, Abraha descended from his throne, sat down on a carpet, and had Abdul Muttalib sit beside him. Abraha then instructed his interpreter to inquire about the purpose of Abdul Muttalib's visit. Abdul Muttalib replied, "I have come to request the return of the 200 camels you took from me as compensation." Upon hearing this, Abraha instructed his interpreter to respond, "You impressed me with your appearance, but you disappointed me with your words. You wish to discuss the 200 camels I seized from you, but you do not address the building, which is the focal point of your religion and your ancestors' legacy, that I have come to destroy." Abdul Muttalib responded, "I am only concerned with the camels. The building has its own master who will protect it." Abraha retorted, "The building's master will not protect it from me." To this, Abdul Muttalib calmly said, "Then the matter is between you and him." Subsequently, Abraha returned the 200 camels to Abdul Muttalib. Upon returning from the meeting with Abraha, Abdul Muttalib informed the Quraysh that they should retreat to defensive positions in the mountains. He then approached the Kaaba, grasped its metal door knocker, and stood there with a group of Quraysh men, fervently praying to God for assistance against Abraha and his army. While holding the door knocker, Abdul Muttalib recited the following verses: "O God, your worshippers protect their homes, so protect your building. Let not their cross and power vanquish yours. Tomorrow, if you should leave them free with our Qibla, then that is what you will." Ibn Hisham confirmed that these verses were considered authentic. Subsequently, Abdul Muttalib released the Kaaba's door knocker and, along with his followers, retreated to the mountain peaks, taking up defensive positions and awaiting the outcome of Abraha's approach. The following morning, Abraha prepared to enter Mecca, readying his elephant, Mahmud, and equipping his troops. As they directed the elephant towards the holy city, Nufail ibn Habib approached. He took hold of the elephant's ear and said, "Kneel down, and then return to where you came from. You are in God's sacred land." When he released the elephant's ear, the animal complied and knelt. According to al-Azraqi, this act of kneeling was remarkable, as elephants do not naturally kneel, though some have been known to kneel like camels. However, the exact nature of the elephant's actions remains uncertain. Nufail ibn Habib then quickly retreated to the mountains. Abraha's troops, frustrated by the elephant's refusal to rise, beat it mercilessly, striking its head with axes and embedding hooks into its hide, causing it to bleed. Despite their efforts, the elephant remained stubbornly on its knees. When they turned it towards Yemen, it stood and moved swiftly. Similarly, it complied when directed towards Syria and the east. However, whenever the elephant was turned towards Mecca, it knelt again. At this crucial moment, God sent a flock of birds from the sea, resembling swifts and crows. Each bird carried 3 stones, one in its beak and one in each claw, resembling chickpeas and lentils. The stones rained down upon Abraha's troops, and each soldier struck by them met his end. Although not all were hit, the troops panicked and retreated in haste along the same road they had traveled. They urgently called for Nufail ibn Habib to lead them back to Yemen. Nufail composed verses reflecting the dire situation. "Where can one flee when God pursueth? Al-Ashram is conquered, not a conqueror." Ikrimah described the chaotic retreat. The troops scrambled down any path available, dying indiscriminately as they fled. Abraha was severely wounded. His fingers fell off one by one, oozing pus and blood. When they finally brought him to Sana'a, he was in a pitiful state, like a helpless baby bird. He eventually succumbed when his heart burst from his chest, or so the accounts say. Many early scholars interpreted the term ala-babel to describe birds that moved in flocks, navigating in groups. According to Ibn Abbas, these creatures had beaks similar to those of birds, but paws resembling those of dogs. Ikrimah described them as having heads like lions, emerging from the sea, and noted that their color was green. They have also been described as black seabirds, carrying stones in their beaks and claws. Ibn Abbas compared them to the griffins of North Africa, noting that the smallest stones they carried were comparable in size to human heads, with some as large as camels. Others, however, said the stones were small. Ultimately, the precise nature of these creatures remains known only to God. The descriptions of these birds, with beaks like birds, paws resembling dogs, heads like lions, and the ability to carry stones large enough to destroy a massive army, clearly suggest that they do not fit the natural laws governing the creatures we see in our world today. This leads to the possibility that they could have originated from a different dimension. Modern science, particularly in theoretical physics, introduces the idea of dimensions beyond the four we commonly experience: length, width, height, and time. Theories such as string theory propose the existence of additional dimensions that are beyond human perception. These dimensions could potentially host forms of life and physical laws that differ entirely from those in our universe. If the birds sent to destroy Abraha's army originated from such a dimension, it could explain their unusual characteristics: beaks like birds, paws like dogs, and heads like lions, along with their ability to carry enormous stones. In a different dimension, these creatures might not be bound by the gravitational forces, biological constraints, or physical limitations that govern our reality. Their existence could follow different rules, enabling them to perform feats that would otherwise seem impossible in our world, making them capable of actions that defy our understanding of nature. Throughout history, many ancient civilizations have spoken of extraordinary creatures with immense power and unique hybrid forms that closely resemble the descriptions of the birds sent to destroy Abraha's army. In Greek mythology, the griffin was a majestic and fearsome creature with the body of a lion and the wings of an eagle. This hybrid form made the griffin both a symbol of power and a guardian of sacred places, much like the birds described in the story of Abraha. With lion-like heads and bird-like features, the griffin was believed to be capable of incredible feats, blending the strength of the lion with the agility of the eagle. This combination of animalistic traits, rooted in different creatures, echoes the descriptions given by early scholars such as Ibn Abbas, who described the birds as having beaks like birds, but paws resembling those of dogs, and Ikrimah, who depicted them as having heads like lions. The roc, a legendary bird from Middle Eastern folklore, shares striking similarities with the extraordinary birds mentioned in the story of Abraha. Descriptions of the roc portray it as a colossal bird, so massive that it could lift elephants and whales with its talons. Some accounts even claim that its wingspan was so vast it could block out the sun, emphasizing its immense power and dominance. Much like the birds in Islamic tradition, the roc was believed to be a creature beyond the ordinary realm, possessing extraordinary strength and abilities. The birds that attacked Abraha's army carried stones of immense size, some as large as human heads or even camels. This detail aligns with the roc's legendary might, suggesting a parallel theme of divine intervention through extraordinary beings. Another mythological creature resembling the birds described in Islamic tradition is Anzu, a fearsome lion-headed eagle from Mesopotamian mythology. Anzu was a towering force of destruction, ruling the skies with unparalleled power. Similar to the birds that descended upon Abraha's army, Anzu was often depicted as a celestial entity capable of unleashing great devastation. With its hybrid form, an eagle's wings combined with a lion's strength, Anzu resembles descriptions by early scholars who suggested that the birds in Abraha's story were not ordinary earthly creatures, but rather beings of divine origin, sent for a specific purpose. The comparison between the birds of Surah al-Fil and mythical creatures such as the roc, Anzu, and even the griffin highlights a recurring theme in ancient narratives: the existence of powerful, otherworldly beings used as instruments of divine will. Their hybrid forms, enormous strength, and ability to carry immense stones imply that they came from a realm beyond our physical reality, where the usual laws of nature, such as gravity and biology, may not apply as they do in our world. From a modern perspective, one could interpret these beings as existing beyond the known dimensions of our universe, functioning in ways that defy conventional physics. These extraordinary creatures may represent a higher reality, where divine intervention manifests through forces beyond human comprehension. Ibn Ishaq reflected on the significance of this miraculous event. He noted that when Allah sent Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, one of the great blessings mentioned was the divine protection of the Quraysh by defeating the Abyssinian invaders. This intervention is immortalized in the Quran. Have you not seen how your Lord dealt with the people of the elephant? Did he not make their plan go astray, and send against them birds in flocks, striking them with stones of baked clay, making them like eaten straw? Thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications to stay updated. See you in the next video. Allah bless you all.